Welcome to Residential Tech Talks. I'm Jeremy Glowacki, Executive Editor of Residential Tech Today. On this week's podcast, two guests join me from Legrand AV to discuss products recently released by their company during a six-city residential roadshow and recently at CEDIA Expo 2022 in Dallas. Charlie Derk, based in Easton, Pennsylvania, is General Manager for Legrand Shading Systems and Vantage Lighting Control. And Alex Weaver, based in Dallas, Texas, is VP of Residential CI for Legrand's Chief, Da-Lite, Luxul, Mid-Atlantic OnQ, and Sanus brands. I was fortunate to have received a personal tour of the Legrand CEDIA booth by Alex and some of the company's product managers last week in Dallas. So a lot of this is fresh in my memory. But before it fades, I thought it would be great to have today's two guests on to share more about their brand, talk about industry trends, and give us a little insight into their career path into this industry. Charlie Derk and Alex Weaver, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jeremy. It's great to see you in Dallas.
Yeah, first off, Alex, thanks for the personal tour at CEDIA. I was in such a fugue state by the time we met up that I failed to even mention the fact that we'd be talking for this podcast just a few days after we got back. So thanks for your time there. It was especially cool that you had your roadshow trailer right there in the booth on the show floor, but also visitors were treated to multiple vignettes set up at the booth to experience how all of your brands kind of come together and multiple applications with home theater, infrastructure, networking, and home office. So I definitely want to dive in sort of the broader industry trends, observations first before we get into product specifics with the company. So, hey, Alex, maybe start us off. What are some of the industry trends that you feel like are really affecting product development right now with the company?
Some of the big macro trends, obviously, televisions are getting larger. So then there's discussion within the home or office of where does it get placed, mounted, and size. Sometimes it's a security, a safety kind of question, whether depending on the application. More and more smart devices. So they're connected. Where do they mount? They want, the consumer, the user wants it to work, but maybe not be so obvious in the location. So hiding and managing that, and they're smarter devices, and sometimes they need a reboot or a software update, so kind of remote management. And then I think also power, the quality of power in a home, the sensitivity about UPS protecting the house. That's been evolving. We heard a lot of chatter on the CEDIA floor about that. And, then I also speak from Charlie's perspective on this project management on larger typed homes or custom applications where lighting controls and the overall experience of daylight and shade and control is of greater importance. Charlie, what would you add to that?
Yeah, I think, for us, controlling artificial and natural light is key. And, I think COVID, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Everybody started working from home. And I think, people started realizing that there are options to make the whole home environment a lot more enjoyable. And I think that starts with good lighting. And with good lighting, you need lighting control. And again, not just the light fixtures, but also the amount of daylight that you're letting in, and being able to control that as well is key.
Yeah, so that seems, when you look at where Legrand AV has evolved as a kind of umbrella brand for a lot of these smaller brands that used to be independent, lighting and shades control seems to be maybe your biggest brand within the family. Is that correct, with the Vantage brand and Legrand shading?
I mean, for me, that's my core focus. Alex has a much bigger portfolio
right.
than I do, but I wake up every day thinking about lighting, which is actually what I've been doing for the last 24 years. So it's, even though it's been a long time, every day is still exciting. And I think there's new opportunities for dealers in those categories.
I'd say,
well, it wouldn't be Just real quick, Charlie. So before we move further into that, and I'll let you answer that as well. You did touch on your background, and it wouldn't be a residential tech talks without asking someone about their upbringing and their interest in tech, where they came from. But you said 24 years. What brought you to your current home at Legrand, that you were in lighting and shade so long?
Yeah, I started out as a software engineer working for Lutron back in 1998. So I did that for a number of years, and it was great. I never imagined this industry was as big as it was, but as I got into it, it really captivated me. So I did that, played a number of roles at Lutron, and then I thought, boy, wouldn't it be great if I could really understand those end users better? So I left Lutron and I was in the field for 6 years doing design build work. But unlike a lot of the AV community, I focused just on lighting and shading. Did that for 6 years and then wound up at Crestron, another manufacturer, a leader in the industry, and, helped build their shading product line there. And then the opportunity at Legrand popped up a little over 4 years ago. And, you just, once you get into the industry, it's hard to get out because it's so much fun. And, I think being back at CEDIA this year just reiterated that the whole community is fantastic. I mean, getting to see all those folks that I haven't seen in the last 2 years back at the show was really great.
Yeah, I will echo what you just said about CEDIA. It was I was fortunate to be able to go last year at the much reduced version of the show, just because it was local to me in the Indianapolis area. But this year, the energy was much more like pre-COVID, even pre-COVID, like years earlier, because things started to slump a little bit. I was also heartened by the fact that there seemed to be a lot of new faces and larger groups of integrators attending, that in prior years you saw the principal of a company. A lot of times it was a familiar face. So hopefully that's a good sign of young blood coming in and folks embracing this one-on-one time that we could have at the show. Charlie, I appreciate your background. Alex, I don't want to necessarily dive right into where you came from, but maybe kind of comment on that, what the key brands are, because you cover so much there, and I'm a big fan of a lot of those names that you are in charge of. But a lot of them are infrastructure, behind the scenes solutions, like you mentioned, mounts and power products and things like that. So where do you sort of point the direction of, this is our kind of core piece, and then we build off of that maybe?
Core is really a lot of the infrastructure to help things work better, to secure on the wall, to make sure it's connected or rebooted. That's kind of the kind of core where we are. And then trying to work with other manufacturers so our devices fit either natively or very easily for that installation, and give the clean fit and finish for the end user. So that's really at a high level of what we try to do every day at Legrand AV.
Yeah, and so maybe we could dive into some of those specifics, newer products that you showed me there. I know that on your 6-city tour, how are you wrapping that up? I think you said you had maybe 1 or 2 more stops.
We actually have a few more stops. Right around this time, we're going to announce. So we finished up in Dallas. We came in starting up in the central Midwest out of Chicago, and we kind of worked our way down into Dallas. From the show, which is wrapping up right now, the show ended on Saturday. It's going to kind of run up the Eastern Seaboard, and we'll finish up in the Northeast when fall comes. So we're going to hit a few more locations. It is a F-150 pickup truck that's going to pull a trailer, if you didn't see it at CEDIA or seen any posts on social media. And we've tried, as you mentioned earlier, to outfit it with some different vignettes to tell the story of devices we can mount, solutions we can try to help you with, things you may have not thought about. And it's been very practical. And you talk about COVID over the last 2.5 years have kept us kind of sheltered in place, and so it's kind of a way to bring the trade show to you, touch it, feel it. If you're very sensitive about safety on COVID, you can kind of go at your own pace. And for some installers, it was just became a very local trip. Take off a little bit of time and see the product, touch the product. So it's been great, and we're going to finish up this year, and we expect the attendance to be very strong.
Yeah, it seemed like the priority in there, quite a bit of it was focused on the mounting solutions, and you had some Sanus products in there that it's not just the back of a flat panel TV, but you're talking about mounting Sonos soundbars as well as specific challenges there, because those are so popular, and trying to make those look more fashionable on the wall, I guess, to match the TV that is so stylish. So maybe talk about some of those solutions that you showcased there.
Yeah, from a broad perspective, we just call them kind of smart accessories. So you mentioned Sonos. We've got a broad offering for different Sonos devices to be mounted, whether it's a soundbar or standalone speakers. We also have within Amazon, they've got a proliferation of products out there. So we were showing the new Echo Show. So we have a little kickstand there on the trailer to show to mount it. You can be mounted. You can sit on a surface, or it can be mounted. Again, offerings for the installer to add more revenue, as well as offer a solution, because they're in there consulting with the client on the overall experience for their home or office application.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to leave Charlie out of the conversation, because we've got a lot to cover still from what you had there at the booth that I saw. And maybe Charlie, what were some of the featured highlights there that they're within your wheelhouse?
Yeah, for Vantage and shading, the focus was really on the end user, and it's interesting. I was after things started settling down and I started traveling a little bit more. I was visiting with some dealers a few months ago, and somebody said something to me that really rang home, and that was stop marketing to the dealers. We know who you are, and we're always going to do that, but I took that back and I said, I think, in some respect, he's right. We need to create more pull from those end users. And for us, being a luxury brand, it's about those interfaces that are on the wall, the brackets and the fabric that are on the shades, and the way we control light. So that was really our focus was, how do we generate excitement from the end user perspective to create that pool.
Right. And I saw that great demo case, which was obviously a solution for an integrator for a dealer, but it in essence, it's for the end user to be able to understand what the different accessory pieces are for your shades, right?
Yeah. And again, going back to being a luxury brand, it's, I can't tell you how many times, over the last 24 years, I've seen dealers doing, pitches to homeowners and having these loose samples, and, they work really well. But, our rationale behind those demo cases, not only do the products need to look good, but the presentation needs to look good as well. So we put a little bit more time and effort and money into making the case something that dealers could be proud to walk in to show a homeowner or a designer.
Yeah, it's hard. I want to give that even more credit, because it was a really cool piece. And you say case, and it doesn't really do it justice, but it kind of looks like the nuclear football there. It's like this huge suitcase full of really fun toys for a designer. So you got those decorative brackets and hem bar caps, and even keypads, and the Vantage keypad finishes in there. So how many different options for the family of colors and finishes, like ballpark, are in there? Because it's a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah, we've got 17 different finishes for shade brackets and for the Vantage keypads. The sky's the limit because we can do a lot of customization as well to really give it that personalized feel. So I think standard, we've got a little over 20 colors, but give us a paint chip or a wallpaper, and we can make it blend into the environment.
Yeah, and that end cap idea has really taken off in the industry as far as a design trend. I feel like in the shades category, where if you don't have that recessed shade, which for a really beautiful new build, I would say it's hard to retrofit that, but to be able to recess a shade is probably the ideal design concept. But for a lot of us in the real world, we have a shade that sort of attaches to the wall and you see it, and to be able to create something that looks more like an elegant finish on it with those end caps, that's what's going on. So you've got those options that can match I guess a metal or a glass, whatever you want it to look like, or just blend in better. So
yeah, if you can't hide it, use it as a design statement. And what we did was use the brackets and match them to a lot of the wall devices that we have. So we've got our Easy Touch 2 keypads, and we've got matching colors. Easy Touch Glass, we've got some matching colors, and then the whole Adorn collection from Legrand. We've got a few select options there, and I think the category will grow. As we continue getting feedback from customers, we'll grow the options that we offer.
And Alex, one of my favorite all-time brands that just always surprised me at CEDIA Expo, because you wouldn't think this kind of a category could innovate as much as it did, but Middle Atlantic products, as far as always having something new to show that was a solutions provider behind the scenes. And I'd go, oh my God, I can't go sit and listen to another rack conversation, but there's always more innovation than I'd ever see from so many other electronics brands. And so you've got that within your group, and there's more to Middle Atlantic. It's into that power category, as you mentioned earlier, right?
That's correct. And that's what we were highlighting at CEDIA. And it's about power. It's really our next step forward. We were showing some products. We've got some additional product SKUs, line extensions coming in the near future. And you think about power, clean power, UPSs, and we're just trying to take a leap forward and bring in a higher level of refinement. So again, the look has stepped up, but the ability to have remote access and control over the device or devices within the home or application has increased.
Well, after the break, we will continue our conversation with Charlie Derk and Alex Weaver.
Do you want superior smart home automation at a great value? Shelly Wi-Fi relays by Alterco Robotics cover DC to line voltage, allowing you to control lights, outlets, appliances, garage doors, pumps, and much more. There are Shelly sensors and power measurement devices to help you measure temperature, humidity, lux, or motion, and electrical consumption from single wire to 3-phase with neutral. You can use Shelly with a licensed driver for Control 4, Elon, or other premium systems, as well as your customer's existing hub, voice assistant, or any platform that accepts REST, MQTT, or CoAP. Shelly can make IoT very easy. Available now at Blackwire, City Electric Supply, and Worthington, or at shellyusa.com.
Welcome back. We're talking with Charlie Derk and Alex Weaver from Legrand AV. And Alex, we were just talking about Middle Atlantic, but you also get into the networking side of things when you talk infrastructure, which is, as we know, the network is really the backbone of any smart home. And within the Legrand family, that's Luxul.
That's correct.
So Epic Mesh is a key piece of that. Tell us a little bit about what you were showing there at CEDIA for the custom installer.
For Luxul, just trying to show the breadth of solutions. So usually you start off with router, whether in switches, we've got passive switches, we've got managed switches, and then the access points. And we can go from a very small application to large applicate for a home, or even a small mid-size, kind of office type of job. Um, we've got remote management through ProWatch, which we spoke a lot about. And so it becomes very much almost like we've talked a lot of times, like it's a fourth utility now. Within a home, you need power, you need water and electricity, and now Wi-Fi, and how dependent we are with Wi-Fi. And Charlie was mentioning earlier about COVID and how it really changed our lives. Well, with things like working from home, um, obviously it was there before. I think what the changes we're seeing now is, if you do work remotely, that you're not just kind of somewhat tethered, but you can be an active participant remotely and be as productive and have what you hear out there in the industry, kind of meeting equity. So if I'm remote, I can see everyone, I can participate, I see the content, see the chat. Having a connected, reliable home that sits on the network, it's got clean power. We're seeing more of a rise in inquiries about, what can you do? What can Legrand AV do for me?
Yeah, and that ProWatch part of it, that seems so essential to, we're always going to have network challenges. There's so many elements that can glitch, and it may not even be the fault of the network itself or the installer, but something else happens. And to be able to look in on that system when there's a issue, or to monitor it so that it doesn't go wrong. What are the elements that ProWatch enables? Because there are different ways to do that. And is it a proactive system, or is it more of a reactive for the installer to be able to fix something remotely, or at least diagnose it so they know what they're getting when they do have to roll that truck?
It really depends on the device. So for almost all devices that sit on a network, I can see them, whether it's a third-party smart doorbell, whether it's a Legrand type product, I can see them. Many of them I can force an update. That has to be proactive. It's not automatic. There's some chatter out there in the industry. Well, why don't you just make it automatic? Well, some sophisticated home sitting on an automation or control system, that may not be a good choice. So it's the dealer, the installer has the choice. If they want to do an update, they can see all the devices remotely. So many times they save a truck roll. And I've even seen situations where it's part of the agreement with the homeowner that, hey, I've got a service contract. We're going to make sure your products and devices are working. And so ProWatch becomes part of that agreement for them to make sure devices are up, they reboot it, or if they go down, or scheduled reboots, you can do things like that.
And explain what the PoE self-healing actually does, because that sounds magical and I don't really understand how it works.
Well, we're getting smarter on the device, and we're getting to the point where the actual port on the device we can recognize. So it's common to see, with residential or light commercial, a few cameras to a lot of cameras, many, the PoE cameras, one might lock up on you. And so we've got an issue there to recognize that, to do a reboot. That's part of that self-healing process that we can do. Again, saving a truck roll, the whole experience for the client stays better. So it's just more of trying to make it easier for that installer in the level of service they can offer the client.
Now, switching to Charlie, one of my favorite industry trends developing is the human-centric lighting category, or what category within a category. And there was some, I got to see some demonstrations of the Legrand take on that, or the Vantage take on that. So maybe talk about circadian lighting, human-centric lighting, how that fits into what is within the Vantage family.
Yeah, so late last year we released a product called Lumen, and it's LHUMAN, so lighting for humans. And really what we were trying to do there is make the programming of that human-centric lighting or tunable fixtures easier for the dealers. I think every fixture vendor out there has different properties on their fixtures. They're controlled different ways, and our objective was to make it simple. That way you kind of take the guesswork out of it. So, one of the things that we started doing is working with fixture manufacturers, not really to have a certification program, but to become part of that Vantage ecosystem, so that from a dealer's perspective or a designer's perspective, when they're using Vantage in concert with any of these fixtures that are part of our fixture alliance, they're sure that the quality of light and the representation of the light is accurate. So we've got a couple of folks internal that works with a bunch of these fixture manufacturers. They bring the fixtures in, and what we do is actually calibrate them in-house. So if you have a number 8 fixture and you want it at 3000K, and you have a Lucifer fixture, you want it at 3000K, we actually make sure that they're all at the same output. So it's a lot of work on our end, but I think the return for the dealer is that they're guaranteed performance, and that's what we're trying to do. Like I said, keep the guesswork out of it and make it simple for them to implement.
And the lighting fixture category is still relatively new. I know it's been around for a while, but as far as they're embracing the channel, is still relatively new. And now you've just got this great collection of options for the dealer to sell. And in your press release, you list almost 10 of them that you're working with there in your coalition or whatever you called it. Sorry. But what I didn't realize was that there would be this situation where you might mix and match brands within a lighting layout in a home. So as far as you understand it, when would that come in? Is it if there's a decorative piece that needed to go to match the recessed lighting? Is that when you would have two different kinds?
Yep. And I think, one of the things that we're talking about is the freedom of design, right? So when you look at a space, you might have downlights in the room. Take a kitchen, for example. You might have under cabinet lighting, toe kick lighting. You might have a pendant or a few pendants over an island. And, the beauty of this is that not any fixture vendor provides all of those. Some may, but it's few and far between. So you've got the freedom to choose, the downlights from one vendor, the pendants from another. And again, making sure that when you turn those lights on, they're all going to perform. And I realize that this is, maybe a little bit of an exaggeration, but if you've ever walked into a supermarket and looked up at the ceiling, they've got all the fluorescent lights. And you can spot that, some of them have different color temperature lamps in them, because you see some that are a little pink, some are nice white color, and again, it's an exaggeration, but things like that can happen, in a home as well, even from vendor to vendor, because 3000K to one company might be slightly different to another. And that's really what we're bringing to the table, is gathering all those fixtures, doing the qualification ourselves with, some instrumentation, and making sure that the performance is what it needs to be.
Yeah, and that was very clear at the booth. You did an excellent demo where you could see the different brands performing with the same color temperature in the same space there, in the same control system. So that was a great way to show the actual application of what you just described, and of course being able to integrate that with the shading system, so that you're maximizing that ability to use natural light, blending it with the artificial light, which is the ultimate solution, right, for the integrator to be able to provide their homeowner when they're dealing with lighting.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you both, in both of your areas, you had some training as well at CEDIA, and some of those were very short. It looks like 10-minute little tutorials, and others were hour-long sessions. So I would assume pretty good success there, but based on the attendance of the show, people were there and happy to learn a little bit more in depth.
We were real pleased. Yes, we did show a short 10-minute training, just kind of highlight, if you're kind of new to the industry, haven't been trained, or you kind of came on board during COVID. And then we had some more formal in-classroom trainings, both for Luxul as well as for Mid-Atlantic on the power side. And Charlie, I'll let you speak to on the Vantage Motion or Legrand shading side.
Yeah, it was the same for us. We had a dedicated classroom with hour-long training, on integrating lighting and shading, and then, having folks in the booth being able to do on the spot short little demos and trainings was really valuable for us. And we had a number of customers coming in looking for solutions. Actually, they were human-centric lighting solutions, and just being able to walk them through the software. We had a display in the booth. So we were able to do that pretty effectively and kind of personalize it to the attendees.
Well, it was a great catch up with you there in person, and really great to see what is going out on the road in the city tour that you're doing. I think we've covered quite a bit of it here. Is there anything that I missed that we should touch on before we wrap it up?
Jeremy, I would just add, I was just so pleased with the energy on the CEDIA floor. Just to reinforce, the attendance seemed strong. We'll see what the final numbers shake out. If they were, I don't know if they were as high as 2019, but the quality of the conversation. And I agree with Charlie's comment that, we could take time with them. They didn't seem rushed. They wanted to touch product, ask critical questions, and just really work through them. So we walked away feeling really good for the show.
Yeah, I think you hit it. I think it was not quantity this year. It was the quality of the conversations. I definitely felt like, we weren't quite back up to where 2019 was, but every conversation we had were, not just dealers coming in, hey, what do you guys have? But it was 10, 15, 20-minute conversations walking through, solutions that they're looking for. So I thought it was fantastic. And like I said earlier, just catching up with, all the folks that I've met over the last 24 years. It's almost like, we had a full-blown CEDIA last year.
Yeah, it was a bit of a blend of the reunion that we always like with our peers and friends in the industry, but also just a reconnection in person that I think some of us who didn't even realize we were missing it. It really sunk in how much it is, how much easier it is to see things in person and to talk to people one-on-one and not have to do it all over Zoom or on the run, trying to solve a problem while you're in the field. So great opportunity to basically kind of restart and have a positive attitude. So I'm glad it was successful for you, and I appreciate you taking the time to give us a little bit of a round out of what we might have seen or didn't get to see while we're at CEDIA if we didn't attend. So thank you both for your time today. It was great talking to you.
Great catching up, Jeremy. Thanks.
Charlie Derk is General Manager for Legrand Shading Systems and Vantage Lighting Control in Easton, Pennsylvania. And Alex Weaver is VP of Residential CI for Legrand's Chief Da-Lite, Luxul, Mid-Atlantic, OnQ, and Sanus brands in Dallas, Texas. You can learn more about Legrand AV brands at legrand.us. And that wraps up today's show. If you're new to Residential Tech Talks, please subscribe to the weekly podcast on your preferred platform and consider rating or reviewing us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, check out all the latest residential tech news at the magazine's website, restechtoday.com, where you can also subscribe to the print or digital magazine and to our Tuesday and Friday email newsletters. Until next time, please stay safe, stay inspired, and let us know if you have a great story to tell.
Residential Tech Talk, lighting specialist to Residential Tech Talk.
Home automation device, home or smart house.